Kia ora koutou katoa. Ngā mihi nui kia koutou katoa. Tūwhaka whanaunga mai, te kaupapa whakahuihui I a tātou. Tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou, tēnā tātou katoa. Kia ora. Welcome everybody to our session on entrepreneurial opportunities for Indigenous communities. My name's Nairi Molyneux. I'm going to be facilitating the session today. I'm a business lecturer at Unitec in the Department of Marketing and Management, Faculty of Creative Industry and Business. I'm also a business coach, and one of my core focuses at Unitec in our department is Māori business, is developing a strategy for Māori business. I'd like to welcome my distinguished panellists today. Thank you all very much for coming along. I'd like to add that we've got quite a good balance here today. We have some, I'll call them pracademics. Because not only do they have practical experience out in the business world and they're entrepreneurs themselves, but they're also academically qualified. And then of course we have our professors. I'll go through and introduce each one because they deserve their own special invitation. We have Professor Wiremu Doherty, who's of Tūhoe descent, and he is currently a Professor of Education at Te Whare Wānanga o Awanuirangi, which is a Māori tertiary institute. He has a wealth of experience and knowledge, and very privileged to have you here. Professor Dennis Foley, who is of Aboriginal descent, and I don't want to say the Aboriginal words in case I'm...
Marigal and Wiradjuri.
Yes. That's it. And he's a Professor of Aboriginal Studies from the University of Newcastle. Then we have Leisa Nathan.
Kia ora.
Leisa is a chartered accountant and she's a director of Oka Business Solutions, which is a mentoring business based in Auckland, a mentoring business services business based in Auckland. And Heta Hudson, who is of Tūhoe descent. Sorry, I better go back and so Leisa, Leisa's your
My primary iwi Ngāti Whātua, but also Ngāpuri and Ngāti Kau as well. Kia ora.
Heta Hudson, who is Tūhoe descent?
And Ngāti Pūkeko.
Ngāti Pūkeko.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if Peter wanted me to say this, but he is a lawyer.
That's safe. That's good. What are you thinking?
So as you can see, we've got a good balance of skills and experience here as well. And Heta has also been leading the Business Services Department of WHK, formerly known as Gosling Chapman, which is a corporate accounting firm in the city. Heta was leading the business services team where they were providing a variety of services. And Andrea Anderson,
Kia ora.
who is Ngāti Tūwharetoa, Ngāti Uenuku, Ngāti Hine, Ngāpuhi.
Yeah, we got around a bit.
And Andrea is a business manager. She's a partner of Leisa at Oka Business Services. But you're also an entrepreneur and you're running another business on the side, aren't you?
Oh, you've always got to keep your fingers in a number of pies.
A handbag and shoe business running as well.
You can tell that. Has to pay for my expensive habit. We'll talk about that later.
So we are lucky to have these people here with us today to share their knowledge. Now, throughout the conference, it's been made absolutely clear that community economic development is fundamental to the future of economic development as a whole. As many of us here know, that it's all about just people. Kia hake ia nui, he tangata, he tangata, he tangata. What is the most important thing? And it's people. It would seem to me that Māori would be quite well poised in the future in Māori entrepreneurship. One of the first questions I'm going to ask, what I'll do is we'll go through the panel, then we'll have their opportunity to answer the questions. We've got 5 questions here, maybe 6, and then we'll have some time for people to ask questions. So I know we're running a bit late. So my first question is, what do you see as the most obvious entrepreneurial opportunities and issues for Māori communities in the next 3 to 5 years?
Me?
Wiremu?
Within the New Zealand context, Māori are probably the best equipped and most experienced grouping of people working with government. We have a history of doing it. Successive governments, whether it's National, Labour, whoever. We have built a series of infrastructure around how we engage and operate with government. I see that as probably one of the biggest untapped resources that is sitting there at the moment for Māori. There are a couple of issues underlying that. One of them is Māori talk about collective ownership. Crown wants to talk about individual ownership, such to the extent where most Māori assets are still collectively owned, down to the point of wanting to build a home on Māori owned land. Most banks in New Zealand won't lend on that because you've got collective ownership as opposed to individual ownership to hold accountable for should the loan go bad. So to me the most, I guess, underlying untapped potential for Māori is that engagement working with the Crown, particularly as we move out of the settlement process and we're into post-settlement, where now they're talking about private partnership. I see that's where the greatest potential for New Zealand is going to lie. There are a few officials in there for people who tend to have a very narrow stereotyped view of Māori given from what's portrayed in the media. They're going to struggle with that. But New Zealand's growth and development is going to see more of Māori as economic contributors as opposed to people coming at the bottom end on a state of codependence.
Slightly different take, because I think about the land, that's a wonderful topic, but I'll let you guys talk about it. But I think there are some examples there where it can be done. But I think if I was an entrepreneur and I was Māori and I was in New Zealand and I was looking at the next 5-10 years, 3 to 5 years, I think the 3 areas, education, there's some wonderful opportunities in education. Health, you've got an ageing population, both Māori and both Pākehā, and I would rather be looked after by a Māori health system, if I was a Pākehā, than a Pākehā health system. So I see that there's cultural implications where if Māori were controlling the health system or privatising the health system, there could be some wonderful opportunities. And the other one is alternative fuels, alternative energy. And I see that where Māori have some wonderful opportunities with existing land and existing facilities and the level of Māori knowledge coming through the university sector, even now, the mines, the bright mines. So I see there's wonderful entrepreneurial opportunities there. So I'll leave it at that.
I'd just like to actually just follow on that discussion. I mean, you mentioned alternative energies. We've been in discussions with some of the iwi organisations, one up in the Te Uri o Hau in the north. They're looking at being engaged by Meridian to build multiple wind turbines on their lands, and this it goes ahead to be the biggest project in New Zealand. And these are landowners or Māori land that have been that are well positioned to take advantage of that opportunity. So I just want to reinforce that certainly is an opportunity. It's going to take a lot longer than the 3 to 5 years, but the fact that the engagement process is already underway is fantastic. We also learned from the Te Uku wind farm down there in Raglan. You may not be aware, although it wasn't actually on Māori land itself, it's on private land, but what has spun off from that are the spin-off industries that flow out of that construction process, and they flow on into the Raglan community via tourism as well. So these are some of the opportunities that I've been observing out there already. The other opportunities around what I call the new emerging industry sectors. You've got the information technology industry, in particular the ability to the communication channels that are now open to many through social media, through other forms of technology, and through that being able to exploit new opportunities using those types of tools. So that's what I've seen there. I mean, there are at the moment, particularly with Auckland, where I see opportunities for Auckland for Māori business or Indigenous businesses, is that we don't do very well within the tourism sector here in the Tāmaki Rohe, and I see huge opportunities developing it here around the tourism and also around the creative, because they're really into, there's that strong relationship between your creative industries and your tourism industries, and I don't believe we're doing that very well here, and I think the World Cup is going to be a platform for us to be able to, I suppose, allow that brand to get out there to the wider, the global community. So those are my observations, what I see what those opportunities are.
Yeah, I guess, I like the fact we're talking about opportunities as opposed to just issues. And just the areas that I work in, I see a lot of opportunities at both iwi level, but also working with a number of the trusts and corporations, which tend to be more community focused, hapu focused, whānau focused. At an iwi level, some of the work that I think is quite exciting is the growing collaboration between some of the, for want of a better term, major iwi, the bigger iwi, those who have got a bit of post-settlement time under their belt and are beginning to see or begin to be part of the bigger picture, and becoming more integrated into sort of some of those wider economic discussions. Like I said, I think that's very exciting. I think there's a lot more opportunity for those iwi to work together to basically pick up the stressed assets, pick up strategic assets. They've got the financial clout to do it. There's also opportunities for them to begin to invest back into their communities with either Māori individuals or entrepreneurs, but also to try and provide a source of finance for those trusts and corporations that have struggled in the past to overcome the issue that was discussed earlier about raising finance. So I think there's still a little bit of work to be done there, but I think there's a meeting of the minds there to begin with. The mechanism and the technical side of it probably needs to be worked out a little bit more. Dare I say it, the lawyers will help them out. So I think that's an area that I'd like to see progress a lot faster. Personally, I've been working more closely with a number of trusts and corporations, and across many different sectors: tourism, energy, the 3 Fs, your fish, farming and forestry. Those are still very important. And I think there's not a resurgence as such, but just a growing urgency to be able to utilise those land assets more productively. And again, I think that is an area where you'll see a lot of growth coming from, a lot of opportunity arising. I tend to think that at iwi level it's more like asset and fund management, but at the hapu level, the trust and corporation level, they actually have real assets, land, and they're untapped. So I've been doing a lot of work working with those sort of organisations to improve some of the areas of governance, strategic planning, to provide those sort of tools or those platforms to be able to sort of look at economic opportunities. And what attracted me to be part of this was the fact that a lot of the trust that I work with, there is an underlying imperative to not only make a buck, but to also feed back into the community. So I like that, and I've seen it work in practice, and I think it has a very positive effect on a wider group of people. There's a lot of the groups we're working with up north in particular. I think the economic opportunities are actually coming to them faster than they can handle right now. The development up there is probably outstripping their ability to be able to cope with it. So I think there's a real need to sort of fast track how we sort of take advantage of those opportunities without sacrificing some of the environmental aspects that come with development, and also cultural and social issues as well. So that's just my observations lately.
Kia ora, you just about answered all my questions.
I don't know what the questions are.
I mean, you memorised them. It sounds like there is a lot of opportunity for people such as ourselves in this business support services arena as well, isn't it?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I'm not a big advocate of having multiple consultants running around.
No.
I think there is probably a piece of work to be able to sort of direct people to where they can find sound advice. Or
Collaboration.
Yeah, collaborations. But more importantly, just being put in touch with people who have done it before.
Yeah.
Now, they may be Māori, may not necessarily be Māori, but I see there's actually a lot more value out of those sort of discussions, as opposed to the lawyers, the accountants. They're important too. They do the technical things. They do the things that need to be done for compliance issues and so forth. But we find the people that we work with, they get a lot more value if we introduce them to a tourism business that's been running for 10 years, because they want to get into tourism too. And they can talk to them about how they got over some of the more practical things.
So putting people in touch with the right people.
Yeah, particularly it's sort of with those trusts and corporations. I mean, there's a number of these trusts that are, the likes of Wakatu, asset base of 300 million. They've been there, they've done that. So they're actually they're more willing to actually come and help some of these smaller trusts too. You can get on the phone and say, hey, do you mind?
Answering more questions.
Sorry.
Kia ora, Andrea.
I agree with everything you said. I think the key question here is if we can just bring it back to the individual Māori entrepreneur or the individual Indigenous entrepreneur. I think what we've got to realise and understand is that with what's happened currently, with changes with the recession going on, what we've seen is a real shift, I guess, from a business perspective. I'm just going to go back to fundamentals, if that's okay, because this sounds really flash, but I don't have 300 million up my sleeve to put into business, nor can I probably get my hands on any. So I guess from a very simplistic perspective, the recession's actually really created quite a lot of shaky ground for business. We've seen a lot of big businesses in a number of different industries get completely wiped out, which therefore affects our employment opportunities out there, whether we are Māori, Pacific Island, or new migrants into New Zealand. So in essence, what's happened is it's come back on us to look at, well, what are the skill sets that we have that are potentially marketable out there? And what I believe is happening right now, where I think is somewhat fortuitous for those here in New Zealand, is that New Zealand is a melting pot of different cultures. In particular for Māori, we are very marketable. We are highly marketable out there to the rest of the world. We might be just that little dot at the end of at the bottom of the world, but we're actually a very well-known dot per se. And so I think the greatest opportunity that's ahead of us as individuals is that we have certainly by far what I'm seeing is a lot more creativity in the way that we conduct ourselves both personally and professionally. We all have our cultural backgrounds that we can actually fall back on and actually look at how can we make those marketable out there. I think also what's happening is that because the employment opportunities out there are quite limited for us, it is falling back on us to actually take care of ourselves and in essence take care of our whānau, take care of our hapu, and here's hoping that our iwi kicks in and hopefully we can work together and collaboratively. So I think the greatest opportunity out there is that business in abundance is an opportunity, because although some services may have fallen by the wayside, some industries have fallen and crumpled, in essence as individuals we still wish to be serviced. People still want our services and our skills and capabilities. I think the greatest threat to that though, however, to flip the coin and to pick up Professor Foley's point, and that is education. We've still got quite a number of our people out there that still don't quite have the right type of education to help them get to that next level. And I'll fall on the part of being a practicademy? Pracademic, whatever that is. Here's the key, for many of us, we're all about hands-on, aren't we? We're about wanting to get in there, get stuck in, show me how to do it, don't do it for me, just teach me on how to do it, give me the right tools, give me the right education, and help me along the way, guide and direct me. And I think really what we were talking about earlier, we were talking about programs that were business programs or business education programs that were designed to actually give us those practical skills and capabilities to align with what we already have. And I think that's the key here. I think that's our greatest opportunity. That there is also our greatest threat, is that we've got to be educating people at a level where they can become entrepreneurs. I've got an example of a gentleman, a Māori gentleman actually I'm meeting tomorrow, who proceeded to tell me that he had a very colourful and checkered background. He was very well known by the local constabulary across the country, and had basically changed his life around by leaving his previous memberships and venturing out on his own. Now, he spent the last 3 years developing a prototype, a product that he had as an idea when he was a kid, and it's a sport-based product. And for 3 years, he managed to find sufficient funds to develop this prototype. Now, here's a young Māori man, young in the essence of being business maturity-wise, who unfortunately doesn't quite know his iwi background, his whakapapa, so he's going through a path of attempting to find that, but he's still wanting to give it a go irrespective of that. You know, his challenge, he doesn't know what to do. So although, yep, I can say to him, absolutely go to university, get a business qualification through university, is that really what he's looking for? And the answer is no. What he's looking for is that pracademic. He's looking for the practical, hands-on, potentially surrounded by collaborative support services, professional services, including our accountants and our lawyers, because they are important to some degree. They do have a role to play. But actually, what we're looking, just a little bit, but what we're actually looking at wanting to do for this particular gentleman is exactly what you talked about. Give him the right services. Let's support him as an Indigenous entrepreneur, and let's move him forward collectively. So I think the key here for us is education is essential. It's the right education that matters though.
Having a type of collaborative service around.
And having that as well. Being able to combine the academics with the professional services and practical application.
That's what I like about this. Anyway, I'm going to move on.
Lucky it's only 5, eh?
That's right, we might down to 3. He's answered most of them.
I think question 6 just disappeared after that.
Yeah, it's okay, I've got another one up my sleeve. Okay, now we heard today from Professor Foley. I'd like to acknowledge the work that you've done on Aboriginal people in Australia, the research that you've done, and I think it's going to be of real value for us to hear some comparisons. But one of the things you said today in your presentation was that Māori had an advantage in the Aborigines was the ability to walk in 2 worlds. So my question is, the next question is, what do you see as the special advantages for Māori, Indigenous people? What special advantages do they have in maximising all those opportunities we've just talked about? I mean, I just thought that was one good example.
Who's going to answer that one?
I guess for me it comes down to the fact that as Māori, we live in a world of multiple realities. The word Māori is problematic because it's an eclectic grouping of tribal communities which in themselves are worlds on their own. But one of the things that we're easily able to do is very quickly move from speaking as a tribal individual to speaking as a collective as Māori. We're very good at using that to our advantage. And we're also very good at using technologies that do not belong to Māori and actually Māorifying them. We actually bring them in, we tinker with them, we shift them, we change and we adapt them so that they actually suit our particular needs and our particular purposes. And I think those are one of the key things that's allowed us as Māori to be one of the most successful Indigenous peoples working with a colonial government. And it's because we are able to speak with the one voice. Our language differs slightly from region to region. However, we have some clear understanding that there are some base principles that we all adhere to and follow to. and it's the application of those is where we get that tribal diversity. So I think that in itself allows us a good mechanism to actually engage with the Crown. I mean, it's a moving feast.
I agree, but where my research has looked at it, and I've looked at it obviously from a different perspective, I've looked at the concept of the development of human capital and social capital. And when I compare that to Australia, Aboriginal Australia's human capital, if I generalise, is zilch, and social capital is just above zilch, where Māori human capital is quite well established. At the turn of the 20th century, we had people going to Oxford. Aboriginal Australia got their first undergraduate in 1967, so we can see that the level of human capital in Māori has been strong, not strong enough, but it has been strong. But the thing that's outstanding with Māori is the connection of social capital, and I believe in the Indigenous world, human capital and social capital are so intermixed, they're almost the same thing. So if you've got a strong social capital that has survived colonisation, and it enables you to network and interact, and this is the skills and abilities that you've got to be able to deal with the colonial power, and that's what Māori have got over Aboriginal Australia, because you've got your value system, and you've been able to maintain your identity. Where Aboriginal Australia, it's been totally destroyed with colonisation by taking us away from our mothers, by putting us into missions, by moving us hundreds of miles away from our country, so we don't even know where we come from. So this is how the British organisation has been managed to destroy us, and that's the difference between us and Māori. Where you've got this well-developed human and social capital, where we're now starting, really, we've started from the late 80s, where in some ways you guys have never stopped, from 1760. So, sorry. I won't say any more.
That's around them, and I think that's certainly an advantage. The other advantage is that the brand awareness of Aotearoa is increasing out there. Okay, and it's increasing out there because what is our point of difference when we try to promote ourselves globally? A pure New Zealand campaign certainly helped, but our point of difference is having a Māori culture, somewhere for people to go to be exposed to a culture they've never ever been exposed to before. We've been able to utilise the profile of the haka through the All Blacks, once again getting that brand awareness of Māori out there. But not just that, I mean the whole tā moko renaissance, not just here in Aotearoa, and I'm just talking to my fellow here, and I just noticed he had a tā moko on his shoulder here, and I'm thinking, the whole awareness of tā moko out there through Aotearoa, but also internationally, it's bringing that recognition to Māori again. So it's trying, just going back to the point, our uniqueness is our culture, it's our lifestyle, our value system, but being able to utilise the platform, from being able to promote that via the All Blacks, via the tourism promotions that are happening out there, and getting that international recognition.